Hey, it is Charene Herrera from Jared and Charene in the Morning, County 10's Morning Show, and Patrick Lawson of Wind River Internet. We are back with another edition of Tech Tips. Excited every month we get to find out more what's going on in the world of technology. Well, Patrick is up to date and here to help folks like you and me find out the latest in technology. And today's episode gets to be, I think, one of my more favorite episodes, and that is about AI, which is artificial intelligence. You and I have what they refer to as natural intelligence. That's questionable for me at times. But AI, Patrick, explain exactly what AI is, artificial.
Well, so there's like the Hollywood version where the robots rise up and take over the world because they become sentient. And it was just in the news the other day that a Google employee was fired because he claims that their chatbot is now sentient.
Which means it's alive, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, do you have a soul? And it's like, yeah, I have a soul. I'm alive. The robot said this.
And that's scary, but obviously Google didn't want that to come to light.
Yeah, they're like, it says that because that's what people taught it to say. You're crazy. You can go do something else.
And so with artificial intelligence, chatbots, so basically anything that is using intelligence that's a machine?
Yeah, so there's machine learning as a form of AI. You'd be surprised at how much of our world is now driven by AI and machine learning, and even your phones, all the latest phones.
Right.
They have dedicated processors just for doing artificial intelligence. So the cameras in them aren't that great, but it uses these special processors to do to make the photos look way better than they do. There's all kinds of fancy little tricks that they're doing after the picture's taken with
That's
the
why I
data
look better.
to make them look better.
It's not the
Yeah.
filter, it's the
Yeah.
AI
well,
in the phone.
Yeah, it's the AI in the phone, and
That makes sense.
that is the filter. But there's just different levels of filter.
Oh,
right?
wow. I'm learning something
Yeah.
all the time. I always do with Tech Tips with Patrick Lawson of Wind River Internet. Ask questions, too. If you're hearing this is about AI, artificial intelligence, and you have any questions throughout this whole entire segment, just comment below, and we'll get to your question towards the end. Patrick, why is AI coming up right now? I know it's in the news.
Yeah, that was. There's a lot of different things, like I said, that are using AI. Google search, the engineers at Google don't even exactly know how the algorithm works because it's kind of taught itself over time.
That's scary.
Your social media, the news that you get is filtered by AI, and it's determining the things that you like or you comment on more frequently are going to be the things that show up more often. And then the ads and they use that data to sell to ad companies to provide advertisement that's supposedly more geared towards you, you'll be more likely to buy.
Right.
So they do that on Twitter and Facebook, and yeah.
And so artificial intelligence isn't like, first when I hear AI, I think about the robots that I'm seeing in the news. I've got two friends that just recently visited places, maybe out of the country, I'm not sure, where they were served by robots and the food was prepared by robots. That's not necessarily what you mean completely when you talk about artificial intelligence, but that's part of it.
Yeah, everybody thinks like what's in the movies where it's a humanoid-looking robot, which I guess people are going to make, but they don't. they're usually machines that do a specific task. So like your little Broomba that vacuums the floor, it emits signals into monitors, and it changes its path dynamically, and it learns how best to vacuum your floor and hopefully avoid falling off the stairs.
Well, you have big fast food chains that are looking into robotic delivery. You have big companies like Grubhub that are already providing delivery on college campuses here in the country via robot, and they're like little robot carts. All of that has artificial intelligence.
All the voice assistants, can't say their names or they go off, but Amazon Echo with the A word, and on your phone it's the Siri, and
well, mine's not very good because mine's an old one, so I didn't pick up Patrick.
The Google Assistant, they're all using artificial intelligence to analyze your voice, and in the new phones, that's what they're using for the dictation, where the text to speech And the latest version in the new iOS that's coming out this fall, I have a beta of it, and it's way better than what's been out in the recent years.
Thank goodness, because I'm telling you what, I get in trouble more on my voice text than anything because that thing just it's never quite accurate. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, they're moving it from cloud processing, where there's the delay in the internet, to being done locally on the phone more, and it does a way better, faster job than it used to.
How can you use artificial intelligence as your friend? Like, a lot of us living in Wyoming, we're a little disconnected, but how can we, tap into a lot of this new stuff and use it?
Well, like all the cars coming out in the future, they've got all the camera sensors around them, and they're working on doing self-driving, so you don't have to drive.
Well, you can still drive, but you may not get into an accident.
Yeah, you can have it drive for you, or you can have it do most of the driving, like cruise control, but just the next level, where not only does it just, keep your speed, but it brakes, it keeps in the lanes, it switches lanes, it passes cars, it stops at intersections, takes turns. It basically does everything. It's pretty exciting.
And in healthcare, too, I know that there's talks as far as the healthcare world goes.
Yeah, they're using
AI.
it for machine mapping and figuring out immunity.
Genetics, or
Yeah.
They've
Trying to think of the word.
They've used it with like the Da Vinci robot for years, but now healthcare has been a lot of talks with healthcare and AI as well. And I've always been kind of curious, when will that necessarily come to Wyoming, or when will robots be serving us in restaurants here? Hopefully not for a while.
We'll see.
I'm not quite ready for that. What else on AI?
Well, depending on who you talk to, they think that someday in the not so distant future that all tasks that humans don't want to do, they won't have to do, they'll be done by robots. And
Probably the case.
So get an education on maintaining these robots.
Patrick's best advice is to fix robots for your future. That's got to be a career and going to be something that's taught at every school, I imagine, at some point. But no, computer engineering obviously is a very important part of the modern day.
There's I can't remember the name of the group right now. I think it's called OpenAI, and their whole purpose is to create laws and guidelines so that there isn't the robot uprising, that we don't get turned into human batteries like in the Matrix, or Skynet decides to wipe out the world or whatever.
Well, even talking about Google not even really knowing how its own algorithm works necessarily down to a T, because it's taught its own self, just shows you the potential of why that is probably necessarily needed. But exciting stuff, Patrick. I know you'll keep us in the know. Any questions, Terry?
Well, I just got one that came in from Weldon Blackburn, and he says, artificial intelligence, can it get out of hand and take control of everything like the Terminator? Everyone's thinking the same thing.
Well, that's the fear, but in reality, that's very unlikely. Everybody's got fail-safes and measures to not have that sort of thing happen, and the networks don't necessarily talk to each other. They're pretty segmented. Like I said, most machines do a specific task. They don't go out of the way to do a different task. Like, if they don't use the machine learning to operate the nuclear weapons, so I don't think we have to worry about it.
For now.
For now.
For now.
And, that's something as, public, you'd want to maybe ask the people that you elect and make sure that they don't go towards that path.
Yeah, that's a really good point, though, as Patrick's talking about, just being in the know, being educated to know about, some of these things that are advancing around us. They may not necessarily be right in our face here in Fremont County or in Riverton in particular, but they are out there, and they are moving rapidly, too, as far as AI goes, whether it be robots in restaurants, delivery vehicles for, companies like Grubhub, the advanced voice text technology in the new iPhone. It's all around us. So
yeah, DoorDash, Uber, they're all working on doing self-driving, self-delivery, and they actually aren't making any money right now. They're all betting on those technologies advancing, so they won't need the humans anymore. So if that's your career path, it's probably not the best one. being a driver.
Well, we already advised to be a computer engineer. We know because we need you to work on these little robots and the AI and the artificial intelligence.
And if you're a young person going into programming and building these things, just remember Jurassic Park. What do they say? Don't be too preoccupied on whether or not you could do something just because you can do it, but you should.
Do we need to Google this?
I can't remember. We do need to Google the line. I totally messed it up.
I was hoping for this inspiring.
Yeah, you wanted to. You're too preoccupied to think if you could. You didn't stop to think if you should.
There you go.
That's what it was.
And in those words, that is Tech Tips. I'm Charene Herrera from Jared and Charene in the Morning, County 10's Morning Show. Patrick Lawson, Wind River Internet.
All right,
Have a good one.
thanks.